Right then, everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got a little bit of a cold, so hopefully it's not affecting the audio too bad, but I've not gone in work today because I've got a little bit of a cold. I've done a test, currently negative, but feel a bit ropey. So I'm going to do a couple of videos from home rather than go in and risk infecting everybody else. Is that all right? Sound. Righty then, let's talk about Middlesbrough. So they are currently lying in 7th place in the Championship. They've won 4, lost 1 of their last 5 league games, and they've only lost once in their last 10 matches. They're in pretty good form at the moment. United unbeaten in our last 13 games against Middlesbrough, for whatever that means and wherever that sits with everything, I don't know. But anyway, so let's have a look at how they play. Chris Wilder's recently taken over, and he's got them playing in a 3-5-2. Utilise that in every single game, so safe to assume that they'll probably be doing the exact same thing again tomorrow night against United. At Sheffield United, Wilder took a much similar approach, and while the Sheffield United were using a real dogged style of football, real flexible 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, overlapping wide centre-halves. They supplied loads of overloads into the flanks. That's where they were dangerous. They got crosses into the box. And Middlesbrough, so far under his tutelage, have pretty much followed suit. Exact same style, exact same tactics. Unfortunately for Wilder, though, the Middlesbrough team that he's inherited is nowhere near as good, nowhere near as capable of fulfilling the tactical functions because of the personnel that are available to him. So he's had to settle for a little bit more of a regimented approach. It might get a little bit more fluid as we go along, but right now, it's a little bit more rigid and predictable than the Sheffield United side was. They do tend to play, I'm getting out of breath just talking here. They do tend to play long balls out from the back. They rely on the second balls and pouncing high up the pitch, but they are also capable of playing out from the back when it's applicable. And the majority of their play comes down to the use of their wing backs. Any back three system, it relies on good wing backs, and a good wing back can make or break these systems. Otherwise, they can be, they can be terrible, or they can be excellent, but it's all down to the wing backs. And one of the most interesting tactics that Middlesbrough are going to employ is, of course, those overlapping and underlapping wide centre-halves. I think it's an absolutely fascinating thing. I think it probably comes down from the original Cruyff style of play of doing stuff, where you can force people into the midfield, ball-playing players from the defence. When you're in possession, you can force people into the midfield, and it creates an instant overload because the opposition don't usually deal with that sort of stuff and aren't used to dealing with an extra man coming from the back like that. So it's definitely a thing that you've got to look out for. It's definitely a thing that you've got to mitigate and know how you're going to deal with it, and appoint people to press it, whether that's from your forward line or perhaps someone from midfield if they bypass your forward line coming into the centre. The wing-backs will hold their width. They will get right, chalk on the boot style, and the centre-halves will make underlapping runs beyond them, supporting the midfield, and the midfield or one of the wing-backs might drop into cover. It's one of the more interesting tactics that Wilder does. I'd love to have a conversation with him about where it came from and what he sees as the best example of having done that so far. But it is one of the flexible tactics that you will see deployed during the game, and I think tactically it's one of the most interesting things that we see in English football at the moment. The wing-backs are also afforded freedom to come inside and get involved in and around the box as well. So look out for both of those. Team news-wise, they've got a loanee from Arsenal, Florian Balogun, and he looks to make his full Middlesbrough debut against United following his January move. They've also got Riley McGree, and he's in line for a Borough debut. Don't know much about these lads, after joining from Birmingham in the middle of January. And they've also got Paddy McNair, obviously former United player. He'll be looking to maybe start back where it all started at Old Trafford in his career. He's an option at centre-half or even centre-mid for them. I think the likely 11 for Middlesbrough is going to be Lumley, Fry, Bamba, McNair, Jones, McGree, Crooks, Taverner, Taylor, Balogun and Spraw. Starman, a very interesting Starman as well, I would say, in Isaiah Jones, just been named Sky Bet Championship Player of the Month for December. Quite possibly the best player in the Championship, I think it might be fair to say. 22 years old, he's got 4 clean sheets, the only goal against Swansea. He got both assists in the win against Blackpool, and a run for the decisive penalty against Bournemouth, which is not bad for a wing-back in his debut season. Got 1 goal, 7 assists in the Championship so far. And I think in the past 6 weeks, I don't think it's close that he is the best player in the Championship. Whether or not he is truly the best player, he's certainly the form player. He's quick, he's agile, he's an absolute threat bombing forward, he's a constant danger, and if he gets 1v1 with someone, expect him to cause you problems. He's excellent. And the reason why he's impressive is David Spence is on loan at Nottingham Forest because he can't get a sniff. In terms of data, obviously it's a little bit difficult to get Championship data, but we've got a little bit. They're averaging 47.1% possession, which is 16th in the league. They're not used to dictating possession. They definitely look like they're going to hit us on a counter, and you would expect that with being United, but it's kind of what they do in their league anyway. They have the third best defensive record, conceding only 26, and interestingly 5 of those were own goals, which is way more than any other team. And they've only registered 32 goals this season, which is 15th ranked in the league. So it's the defence that's doing all the heavy lifting for them. And Wilder was known for that as well, so expect more of the same or an improvement of the same with Wilder being there now. They've only allowed 82 shots against them, and only Fulham and West Brom have allowed less. They are generally extremely tough to break down. So how do we beat them? Well, I do expect United to beat them. You know, regardless of how tough they are, they're still a team from the second tier, and I still expect Manchester United to put a show on and absolutely deal with them. That being said, the starting 11 I expect United to go with would be in the 4-3-3, which I think he's leaning towards now, old Ralphie boy. With Big Dave in net, I'm going to go with Delo and Tellez at the fullbacks. I think it'll be Maguire, even though I would like it to have been Lindelof alongside Varane. McTominay, Fred and Bruno with Sancho, Ronaldo and Rashford up front. How do we beat them? You can't allow them to drop into a back five. Once they drop into a back five, we can't push enough men forward, even with our fullbacks, to make any sort of room. The back five, especially with 1 or 2 sitting midfielders ahead of them, if it's going to be McNair, is just going to be so congested around the edge of that box, and they're used to playing without the ball. This isn't a team that's coming from the Championship that's used to snottering teams. This is a team that's used to playing without the ball and denying space and denying shots. They could quite easily limit United to less than 10 shots, and then you're looking for a little bit of luck, a little bit of poor finishing, and they could come away with a clean sheet and take it to extra time and penalties. They drop into the shape pretty quick. They're good on the transition. They're difficult to break down when they do. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, so you're going to have to be at your creative best, and I actually think Bruno deeper gives you United a lot more offering in that. A hard team to beat will become even harder if they completely lock all open doors. They do press on occasion, and we're going to have to be ready to exploit them at the times that they do that and they aren't sat deep, because I think that's where the openings are going to be. As always, with a back three, the place that you attack them is that gap in between the wide centre-halves and the fullbacks. That's the position that these formations typically, someone's gone a little bit too far. If the centre-half ends up going too far, there's too much of a gap in between him and the central centre-half. And if the wing-back's pulled out too forward, there's too much of a gap in between the wide centre-half and the full-back. Either way, the wide centre-half and the space, inside or outside him, is always the place where you can break these teams down, and that's what we have to do. I think the opportunities won't be frequent unless United are really at it. But that's the one that you got to look at. I haven't gone with Elanga. I've gone with Rashford because I think he could be getting over it, but if it isn't Rashford, it will be Elanga. And using the pace of either him or Rashford in that area right there is going to be a big key for us, especially if we're expecting Isaiah Jones to be bombing on. That's the perfect opportunity for us. If he's the one that's getting high, target that side centre-half and get him behind him. Also, difficult against the Championship side, but the opportunity is probably going to be there for us. Can we score a goal from a set piece? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Defensively, that's where Middlesbrough have been most vulnerable this season. And they usually don't get first contact when a ball's coming into the box. So they often try and trade on second balls, really, when it comes to set pieces. If United can get first contact, especially from corners and wide free kicks, if it's on target, you've got half a shot. United have actually created a decent number of expected goals from corners and wide free kicks. We just haven't capitalised and put them away. So it's one of them, I guess. If the game becomes tight, you're hoping that their discipline's going to go, but that could be an opportunity for us to nick a goal and potentially end the drought and maybe have Eric Ramsey not worrying about his job for the next 5 minutes. But that's what I'm thinking. I actually think it'll go quite comfortably for United. I don't think it'll be loads of goals, but I think 2-0. I think we can shut them out, and I think we can score a couple of goals and march ourselves into the next round of the FA Cup. That's what I'm reckoning. Let me know in the comments, do you agree? I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.